What's up, everyone? Welcome to 5v5 Live. I'm Matt Hempstead. That's Eric Kummel. How you doing, Eric?
I'm doing fantastic, Matt. How are you doing?
Fantastic. That's a good word.
Yeah, you stole my word.
I did. Word of the day. But you know who else is doing fantastic? That would be North America and their League of Legends fans. Absolutely cleaned up at Rift Rivals.
Round of applause for NA.
That's not bad.
Canada included. People seem to forget that Canada is in fact part of North America.
So is Mexico.
Yes. Shout outs to Mexico and Canada.
There you go. Anyways, they won the group stage 12 games to 6. Looked pretty. There were a lot of close games, but I mean, 12 to 6 is pretty convincing. And then TSM, of course, swept the Unicorns of Love in the finals. Before we applaud NA and their performance too much, I know you already did, but we'll have to take that back.
Okay.
Europe looked questionable at times, and they were pretty favored going in. Everyone was like, oh, these EU teams look amazing. Fnatic, they don't lose to anybody. They only beat Phoenix 1, which was surprising.
Close, too.
Yeah, exactly.
They squeaked those out.
And then Unicorns were the best team at a 3-3 record. So I guess the first question would be with Fnatic, because they were definitely the favorites going in. And I mean, for me, they looked predictable. And you kind of saw it in the very first game against Phoenix 1. They were, you know, Phoenix 1 was kind of seeing how they were playing, and we're one step ahead of them. So for Fnatic, I just did not expect them to perform so, maybe not poorly, but they were dominated in some of these games.
Yeah, I think, and then they put out their marquee comp with the Shen and Kennen when they played TSM, and TSM didn't ban anything. They were like, oh, look, you're playing that comp, as we expected, and they handled it pretty easily, honestly. So yeah, I think predictable is kind of the word, and Fnatic was stomping everyone in EU with this comp, but now, heading back in the second half of the split, they're going to have to definitely look at their compositions, because there's no doubt that the other EU teams take a look at this tournament and they're like, oh, that's how you handle Fnatic. That's not so tough. So yeah, it was a little disappointing to see them. They kind of got it together a bit at the ends, but a lot of the NA teams were just camping mid. When you have guys like Bjergsen and Jensen, they just camp mid, and then Caps is pretty much irrelevant for most of the game, and with reckless split pushing, it's going to be a tough hill to climb. Yeah,
Caps did not look great, and it was kind of a theme for the North American junglers for the entire tournament, was to just stay around that mid lane. Poor Exile, too. He had a rough
He had a couple of good games.
He did. Not at the start.
No.
Not at the start.
Those
but,
were bad.
I mean, for Fnatic, they only had 2 dragons the entire tournament, which is not a good number. And they were behind in pretty much every game at 15 minutes, which is something you don't see from Fnatic. They're usually ahead by 1,500.
Yeah, it's the total opposite in the EU LCS. They were at the top for dragon control and early game leads.
It seems like EU just didn't care too much for Fnatic to get off to that great start, whereas NA kind of took it to them instead.
Yeah, the big start for NA was probably the weirdest part, because they're the ones who had to travel. And obviously, the memes were great. Jet lag jokes for G2 and everyone that Deficio was making, but it is a little absurd that the team traveling all the way over got out to the early start. Very surprising.
It is very surprising, and I mean, for Fnatic fans, disappointing, definitely, especially in EU. Everyone's like, Fnatic, they're going to win Worlds. They couldn't beat North America, so they're probably not going to win Worlds. I'll put that out there right away.
That is a hot take, man. That's bold.
It is bold.
Fnatic's not going to win Worlds.
But now, obviously, the best team in Europe, based on the 1 game better record, is the Unicorns of Love, who finished with 3-3 and then got swept. I mean, it was a sweep to TSM, but I wouldn't say it was stomps every game. They were ahead in a couple. They had a chance to get Baron in game 2, which TSM briskly stopped, since they had an interesting steal there. So, I mean, are they the best team in EU? Is that what we're taking away here?
I mean, their performance wasn't that much better than Fnatic.
Not.
They were the only ones to take a game off TSM, which is okay, but that's not really enough to be like, wow, this team is amazing. Especially the first week, or the first day, it was only a week long. The first day when they went 0-2, you were like, this team is terrible. Yeah. They're not going to win a game at this tournament. Obviously, they turned it around, but based on their start and just how they played in some of these games, they still didn't look that together. Exile had a couple good games. He looks good on Kassadin.
Not Rise.
He's got to stop picking Rise. They might consider banning that champion against themselves, because he just doesn't seem to respect junglers in any sense. He'll die once, and then he'll just come right back out and still be aggressive against the opposing mid laner. So I'm not that confident in UOL after this tournament. I guess they're the best team in EU. Sure. I still think Fnatic is, despite their poor showing.
I mean, yeah, we'll get to it a bit more later, but not for the team who won. It's TSM. I mean, they won 8 games this tournament. UOL only won 3, and then Fnatic won 2, and then G2 won 1. So that's, yeah.
It's a lot more wins for TSM.
But TSM looked amazing, really. I mean, double lift on his Ashe. He didn't miss ultimates, like, at all. And then Bjergsen looked dominant once again in the mid lane, outperforming pretty much everybody. So, I mean, for TSM, for me, clearly the best team at Rift Rivals tournament, which is why they won.
Yeah, I mean, 3-0 in the finals, 1 loss in the group stage. It's pretty hard to discount them. And yeah, Bjergsen was basically outclassing every other mid laner with a gank or without ganks. He was just dominant. I don't know how he keeps getting Syndra. Pretty much every game he gets Syndra, he just completely dominates the entire game. But yeah, across the board, TSM looked pretty solid. Svenskeren was amazing. That Baronsteel
Not TSM amazing, but Svenskeren.
He is amazing. Yes. They're the same human being. Yeah, that's right. They bonded together. So, but no, he was spectacular. I'll use that word in this tournament, which obviously he's the guy who gets roasted and flamed the most now since Wild Turtle's gone. He's taken those honors, but you couldn't flame him after this tournament.
No, you really couldn't. I mean, that Baronsteel was all kinds of incredible to get in there, and then not even usually you die after. Yeah, he got a kill.
A style kill, too.
It was pretty nice looking kill. So, I mean, yes, they won this tournament, but are they the clear-cut NA favorites now? I know going back into the NA LCS, there's CLG again, who are on top of standings. Guys like Immortals, Cloud9 still, they didn't perform the best here. But, I mean, do you consider them the top NA team?
I think you kind of have to after this performance. Yeah, C9, they're saying these guys a lot of them were sick throughout the tournament, dealing with some outside stuff, which does suck, especially when you're traveling. That can definitely hamper how you're going to play. But just how dominant TSM was. It is interesting that you don't see CLG at all. You didn't see them at this tournament.
It's odd.
It's going to be interesting to see how they are the first couple of weeks back in the LCS. But just because we didn't see CLG, I got to say TSM's the favorite heading into the second half.
Fair enough. And the reason CLG didn't go is because they didn't finish top 3 last split. A team that did was Phoenix 1. And the expectations were very low. I know last week we said they're not going to win more than 2 games.
2 games would have been good job.
They won 4 games.
More than Cloud9.
Yes, they won 4 games. They only lost to Fnatic. Both their losses to Fnatic. They beat UOL and G2 twice. And, I mean, they looked spectacular.
And their one loss to Fnatic, they basically threw one team fight
and
lost the whole game. Otherwise, they could have been in the finals.
I was secretly hoping, actually not secretly, I tweeted out that I was hoping they would win and represent North America because I was just enjoying the whole story. It was so surprising that this team had a turnaround, and even they were joking in interviews, like, what was the turnaround caused by? We just got on the plane and it was fixed. It's like...
they have no idea what happened, but it just seemed like Ryu, everyone talks about Mike Young, and we have to obligatory say Mike Young's amazing, the best player ever in the history of the game, the world, actually. But Ryu was outstanding in this tournament on guys like Corki. You're not accustomed to seeing Ryu dominate on Corki, but I don't know if the champion's just busted. He kind of is at the moment.
A little bit.
Ryu performed amazingly. Even Zig was one of the best top laners in the tournament, which we kind of alluded to since the top lane talent pool was not that deep in this tournament. But yeah, Xpecial comes in and Mike Young, and they completely changed this team around.
Yeah, my new nickname for this team and the Mike Young Xpecial duo is Young and Old. It's a play. Young is Mike Young and Old is Xpecial.
Yeah, what is he, like 23?
Yep, he's getting up there. Time to retire.
That's right.
But I mean, I know you talked about Ryu, but I mean, Xpecial and Mike Young really dominated this tournament. Mike Young he was drawing those Nidalee bans the entire time, and then he'd go on a Elise and Lee Sin. It didn't matter. He would still always get involved. Even the game when Trick got first blood in the jungle, he was not bothered whatsoever.
No.
He's unfazed. This guy is confident for whatever reason. I don't know why, but he just plays it like it's solo queue and dominates. And then Xpecial, these thresh hooks were outstanding, and he really turned the tide to some of these games as well.
I mean, Thresh, just a champion he's been playing for basically a decade.
Since it came out.
When he was interrupting skills with Flay, you were like, whoa, I didn't know you could do that. The good old season 3 days. But yeah, that's a champion he's obviously very comfortable on. And yeah, Mike Young, I just don't understand how he gets 2, sometimes 3 levels ahead of the opposing jungler. He just wastes no time in the jungle, such efficient paths and ganking. I mean, across the board, this looks like a totally different team now.
It does. And I mean, for me, I kind of contributed to the Mike Young turnaround and just him being confident, because with the guys like Inori and Meteos, when you're not confident in your jungler, it just doesn't let you play your lane properly. You're always going to kind of be on the back step, not expecting ganks from your teammates, but ready to get ganked by the other guy, and you're just going to die in a 2v2 situation. But with Mike Young, everyone just seems confident. The laning has stepped up a little bit, and the team is totally transformed.
Yeah, they're just playing more freely because, yeah, like you said, you're either your jungler's there ready to counter gank, or he's dumpstering the other jungler, and you're like, oh, their jungler's dead, so you can play however you want.
Yeah. Oh,
that's a little easier as a laner.
Definitely is. Let's go over to Cloud9, who was the worst NA team. They finished 3-3. Terrible, absolutely terrible, 3-3.
Yeah.
But I mean, they had pretty high expectations going in. Some consider them to be the top NA team going into the tournament. So for them, the results were disappointing. And for me, I contribute that to mostly the top lane situation. And I know that there's a lot going on. Impact had some health issues, and Ray had some personal problems. And that just can really affect you in these games, especially when now kind of playing around the top lane is meta. Mm-hmm. So that whole situation, I mean, Ray would fall behind a lot of games, get first blooded, and then it just snowballs from there.
Yeah, I think that was the main concern, was the top half of the map, but I'm not sure how big an issue that will be going forward, because obviously Cloud9 has such a terrific support and coaching staff, and the duo of Impact and Ray, it's such a great dynamic having a veteran guy like Impact helping out this younger Ray guy. I think they'll be able to work together, and whether they continue to do this split time in the top lane or whatever they want to do, Impact on tanks, Ray on carries, I think that'll kind of sort itself out. But yeah, it was surprising to see C9 finish worse than P1. But I mean,
yeah.
Some of the games Cloud9 could have won, they kind of threw them, which was also surprising. I mean, this was kind of the tournament where people were expecting Jensen to do what Bjergsen did and completely dominate. And not that he was bad by any stretch. No. He was still fantastic. But he might have been the worst mid laner for NA.
For NA, yes. Because Ryu really stepped up.
Yeah, which was surprising. Jensen still had a fine tournament, but he wasn't completely dominant like we saw in the NA LCS.
Yeah, I feel you on that. But you kind of alluded to it. The issue for me, even more so over the top lane situation, was those kind of mid-game team fights that they threw away. Especially that one game when Contracts went on Rengar deep into the enemy side and hit the, what's it called again? The flower,
pop one.
The pop one, yeah. I forget what it's called anyways. And then just died from there, and the whole team fight was turned around by the Unicorns. So they did have a couple of those team fights where they misplayed, and then the game just absolutely ballooned from there.
Yeah, and I think, the communication was kind of weird, and that's something where if you are, I don't know, jet-lagged or you're not feeling that well, you're just not thinking straight. I think that was kind of a one-off poor tournament for C9. I think once they get back home and comfortable in the NA LCS, we'll see the normal Cloud9.
So we're going to throw to a quick video here. Before we do, make sure you send us our questions, your questions. We can send you our questions if you want, but
I've got a lot of questions, man.
All right, absolutely. Yeah, send us your questions, and we'll get to them in a little bit. But first, we just did a little top 5 video of the best Western junglers in LoL history. Kind of relates here, since we just talked about a lot of junglers in this Western tournament.
Clever.
So I know it is. So check it out, and we'll be right back in a few minutes.
Although the Western League of Legends scene may not hold up in Korea, NA and EU have put forth their fair share of jungle talent. Several players have not only dominated their own region, but gained international respect for their innovation and gameplay. Here are the 5 greatest Western junglers in LoL history. Number 5. Playing since Season 1, Svenskeren bounced around several teams early in his career, until he finally found his home on SK Gaming. His pedal-to-the-metal style frequently gets him in trouble, but it's also the reason behind SK Gaming's relative success for a year and a half. Upon his arrival to TSM, Sven started out slow, but once again he eventually meshed with the team as TSM won the 2016 NA LCS Summer Split. He may not be as good as he once was, but he is still one of the best Lee Sins in the West. Number 4. Yet another TSM jungler. The Odd One was regarded as one of the best in League's infancy. He was responsible for several jungle trends, including Maokai's popularity and Nunu counter jungling. Largely a tank player, the General was a superior strategist who had a command of the jungle. Not known for his mechanics, the Odd One used his stellar knowledge of the game to gain advantages, which helped TSM win the 2013 Spring Split. Number 3. In 2014, Roccat and their jungler Jankos broke into the EU LCS with a 3rd place spring finish. The First Blood King had an innate ability to strike first, earning his team early advantages. Although Roccat would struggle in later splits, Jankos repeatedly stood out, earning himself a spot on H2K. A fantastic performance at 2016 Worlds garnered Jankos a lot of international attention and put him into the discussion for best jungler in the world.
But double summoners down in trade for 1. Jump up into the top lane, Jankos finds Cubase, Odo throws down a great equalizer, turns the attention, the king! Jankos, the king lives!
Number 2.
There is one, Meteos. He is the only one who brought something new to League for me. He just told to his team that, guys, the jungle is mine, mid laner, get out of my blue. His way of playing is interesting.
Meteos completely changed the jungle game in Season 3. When Cloud9 qualified for the summer split, he immediately made his mark. His unique pathing allowed him to get extremely ahead of his opponent. Often neglecting to gank, he farmed up and then took over the game himself. His 12.7 KDA in the 2013 summer split is the highest in LCS history. He played Zac 7 times with a perfect win rate and also dominated on Elise. For a solid 2 years, Meteos ran the North American jungle. Number 1. Another early innovator, Diamond Prox helped Moscow 5 become one of the best teams in the world during Season 2. Aggressive yet calculated, Diamond Prox continuously brought unique picks to the big stage with success. Xin Zhao, Nasus, brand new Evelynn builds. Whatever it was, Diamond would be dominant and change the entire landscape of the jungle. In a game where teams often look to Korea for new picks, the world looked towards Diamond Prox to see what the next OP pick would be.
Welcome back to Fire 5 Live. Again, send us your questions. That list, Eric, it did not have Mike Young.
Yeah, it's
which is
completely wrong. It should have been Mike Young, Mike Young, Mike Young. Mike, don't call me the second best jungler. Mike Young. Mike Young, I'm the best jungler. Mike Young. Mike Young. It's hard to disagree. So before we move on to the kind of second half predictions, what do you think of this tournament? For me, I had a great time. I thought it was great. Pretty much every game, it was like, I don't know who's going to win. Whereas in most tournaments, SKT. Yeah, I thought that coming into it that only one best of series might be kind of disappointing, kind of anticlimactic. But I think the double round robin is pretty awesome because it's not the best of technically, but when a team loses, they're going to play them again. And that usually just makes that game more exciting. Maybe having 4 teams each would be kind of cool, but that'd be a lot of games for them to fit. They might have to add another day or something, but 4 teams would be really awesome. I think next time, maybe, if there is a next time, I don't know if they've announced anything, but maybe just change how you pick the 3 teams. Yeah. But if they had done the way this split where you pick the top 3 teams during a certain week coming in, you could have had some weird teams if you had picked a certain week in NA. You could have had like Immortals and Dignitas going in or something, and that would have been much worse.
It would have. I mean, my main concern was the teams going, but then Phoenix 1 shows up and completely changes my mind. So, I mean, overall, I think the tournament was really solid. Like you said, the best of thing was pretty much not an issue after either. So, man, I would love to see this year in, year out. It was great to have the NAE rivalry back. Haven't seen it since the Battle of the Atlantic a few years back.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be an interesting thing to keep doing. Maybe give like an actual prize or like other than like meme overlord, which is a pretty awesome thing to win. Yeah. But I think the NA greater than EU, it's only going to last until Worlds. So enjoy it while we can. But maybe NA will do better.
I think NA will rub in this tournament for a very long time.
Yes.
So apologies to Europe they're going to be obnoxious, and you're going to hate them in Twitch chat. But you're going to have to do
You already hate them. So.
Exactly. So.
A lot of hate, a lot of love.
Less love, more hate. But
mostly hate, yeah.
Let's go back to Fnatic, going back to Europe now. I mean, again, they looked exposed at this Rift Rivals tournament. And for me, all these European teams should be absolutely scouting what NA did to them and be like, you just do this, 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 this. Let them play their one play style and their one comp, and then just take it to them.
Yeah.
So I guess, do you think they're going to have success when they go back to Europe, or is it going to be a bit of the Rift Rivals effect?
I think they'll still be on track and a winning record throughout. I mean, it's probably a bit of a wake-up call for them. They were so dominant outside of that one series against Roccat. I think now they're like, okay, maybe the hype train was a little too early for us. We got to get back and keep grinding and make sure we're doing the simple things. And yeah, maybe diversify our play style quite a bit, because, I mean, a lot of the EU teams were just saying, oh, these NA guys are better than the competition in EU, which pretty surprising, to be honest, to hear them say that. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be an issue for Fnatic. It's not like they had to do a huge travel and time difference to get back to EU LCS for this week. So I think they'll be okay. I think
for me, it's going to be more of a region shift instead of just one team trying to change things. Because again, I know a lot of players from EU were saying that they prepare to beat these other European teams instead of trying to beat international teams. But apparently that's not going to be good enough to translate over to a world stage where they're going to want to make noise. So I think they're going to try to expand and look at these other metas, look at the NA meta, look at the Korean meta more, and adapt their play styles rather than just living in what works for them and winning in Europe. So there might be some experimenting in the coming weeks as we get the lead up to Worlds and into playoffs again. So expect some changes there. Maybe Fnatic tries out some new things instead of just playing Kennen from time to time. Maybe play a meta champion there, Reckless. Maybe a little Ashe.
Like the Corki bot?
No, I didn't. I wasn't a big fan, to be honest with you. It was a little strange, but
yeah, when people are dominating in it mid lane, maybe just throw it mid lane. But yeah, maybe if they go through this experimental phase, they might drop a series or two coming back. Yeah, just trying these different comps, and yeah, that's definitely going to be necessary if they don't want to get destroyed at Worlds.
Right.
So, but they have enough of a cushion already, I think, that by the time they get stuff back on track, they'll be fine for playoffs.
Fair enough. So another team, we didn't mention G2 earlier because their performance at Rift Rivals, I mean, look, they only won a single game, but I think some games they performed pretty okay. I mean, Trick, for me, had a decent tournament where he was getting first blood a lot of the times, but then the team as a whole was just not converting it over into objectives and leads overall. So, I mean, now they struggled in the split. They struggled at Rift Rivals tournament. Going back in to the EU LCS for the second half, is this team fixable? Like, because it's not a struggle anymore. It's a very extended slump.
Yeah, I think they're definitely still fixable. All they need to do is basically get the bottom seed for the playoffs, and I mean, they could get to the finals.
Sure.
It's not like the seedings in these playoffs aren't that important. Sure, having a bye is great, but it's not like you're getting a home court advantage or anything in these playoffs. The 6 versus the 3, we've seen TSM be a 6 and then steamroll through the playoffs. So I think as long as they can get that spot, but yeah, their communication seems weird. It seems like they lost their shot caller all of a sudden, but they have the exact same roster. So I don't really know what's going on. I think they'll still be able to get back on track, and until I see them completely choke in the playoffs, just based on their history, I've got to expect them to get back.
I'm with you. I think G2 will eventually turn it around. I've been saying that for a while because it's been several weeks now, and even at this tournament, people were like, G2 will be fine and dominate a lot of these NA teams. Maybe it is the meta with Mithy having to play Braum and Tom Kench over and over. He can't make those plays anymore. But it's just been weird to see them collapse with really no change. You can't blame the MSI thing anymore. You can't blame the week 1 subs anymore. It's been too long at this point.
Yeah, I mean, really all they can blame is how they're playing the game. I don't know if, the change in meta has just really thrown them off. It just seems like they're almost still taking other teams for granted, or kind of like they're playing so passive. They're like, whatever, in the late game we'll beat them. And sometimes they just get so behind, it's like, well, unless you're SKT, you're not coming back from this.
Right. It's been about 10 minutes since we've talked about Meg Young and Phoenix 1.
That's too long.
Let's go back to it.
That's too long.
Phoenix 1, I mean, they were 3-7, but they started off terribly in the NA LCS, and now they're going back with a lot of success. They were 2-0 in week 5, and then they went 4-2 against these EU teams. So going back, what is their ceiling? Because for me, I think they can make it to the top 5 in the league. I know they're 3-7. That's 2 games behind Dignitas and Envy, who are 5-5 in that 5-6 spot. And I don't see them having any issues getting there, to be honest with you.
No, I think their ceiling is almost where they got to last split. I think they can compete for that top 3 or 4 spot in NA. Yeah, teams like Dignitas and Envy, I expect them to blow past them. P1 to blow past them in the second half of the split and fit one of those 5-6 spots. I mean, Immortals and them, the top 3-4 guys, their records probably out of reach for P1 to get to unless they completely collapse. But I think they might be better than Immortals. If they keep playing like they did the last couple weeks and how they did at Rift Rivals, I think they're definitely a top 4 team.
Yeah, I mean, standing-wise, I think they can get to 5 or 6. They're not going to get to the top 4 spot just based on their rough start. But talent-wise, I do think they might be a top 3, like you said, maybe behind TSM and CLG. I think right now they're better than Cloud9, which might not be a popular take, but I'm going to stick with that. I mean, Cloud9's got their struggles going on right now, and Phoenix One they're kind of this unpredictable team with Mike Young's early game. You can target his champion pool if you want to, but there's nothing he's not good at, which raises a different question. You saw his fidget spinner abilities. This guy is
impressive. Very
just
impressive.
Bouncing it on them, going back and forth.
That's
wow.
Right.
Really millennial, just great guy. So my question is, what is he not good at, Eric?
All he's not good at is being bad, basically. I'm sure anything this guy has done in his life or tried to do, I feel like he could pick up any musical instrument, and within a week he would have almost mastered it. If he sets his mind on anything, he might just be a savant in whatever category he chooses. So he just improves his whole team.
Yeah, we'll get him on the show next week to make him play every instrument he owns, including the didgeridoo, of course. Because
that's his token instrument that's followed him throughout his career.
Yeah, and I mean, I know we joke about him being great, but he really has turned his team around, and I can see them making a push to maybe even the finals of this NA LCS, depending on the seeding and how it goes.
Yeah, if Ryu plays like he did at Rift Rivals, then they could definitely make some noise. If he reverts back to whatever he was doing the first bit of the split, then they'll be in some trouble.
My theory is Ryu only played well because he was back in Europe.
That makes sense. He was more comfortable.
That's it. Yeah.
His interviews were pretty awesome and hilarious. Him talking about, he's very awkward when he does interviews, but I enjoy them.
I do too. Okay, enough about Phoenix One. That's I know it's a hot topic. Everyone loves chatting about them, but let's go to your surprise second half team as we go into the final 4 weeks of the NA LCS. Who do you like to kind of maybe make a jump? We can't talk about Phoenix One. It's not a surprise anymore. You can go a team that plummets, or you can go with a team that makes a big jump up the standings.
I think maybe Echo Fox.
Oh, is that going up or down?
They can't go much further down.
That's true.
I think they might get that 6th spot in the playoffs.
Okay.
I think they might move up there and get there. I just feel like Froggen should be able to get the 6th seed in these playoffs. I think he deserves it. He's such a great player, and he's been on some bad teams for a while. I think Keith's playing. He's playing a little better. He's sometimes not the worst.
Sometimes not the worst. That's what you want to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, he's getting better at not frontlining during these games.
Nice.
And Looper has shown the capability to completely carry some of these games. Also, sometimes he likes to feed, but don't we all? So I think if he gets some consistency out of those side lanes, I think they can. It's not that much noise moving up to the 6th spot, but
yeah, I mean, honestly, right now I don't see a ton of change happening in the NA LCS. My biggest surprise would probably just be Envy making a spot for that 5 or 6th place. So again, they're already right in there in 6th, but I do think they stick with it, and for me that would be a surprise based on how they did last season. But Lyra's jungling, as well as the improved play of the bot lane, Apollo and Hakuho, I think that they'll just kind of hang in there and let those other teams fall by the wayside. Dignitas is going to go down. FlyQuest 2 a week last time. Not going to happen again.
Another one, no.
They might not win another game, to be honest with you.
You still believe in Immortals staying top 4?
Yes, based on what they've done so far. I don't think they can fall out of that spot. Are they a top 4 team? I'm not sold with the kind of emergence of Phoenix One. But, I mean, they had a rough week, and we'll see if they bounce back from it, I guess.
I mean, if they're playing the 4-5 matchup against Phoenix One, I like Phoenix One in that quite a bit.
Yeah. So surprisingly, the premier matchup of the week coming up is TSM against Phoenix One. Give me your takes on that. Phoenix 1 going to win?
See,
Hashtag P1 win?
I would say, TSM coming back after Rift Rivals, playing all these games,
Yeah.
they're a little tired. But P1 was there too.
That's right.
So
That's what makes it so good.
that excuse or whatever, I can't really make it. I think it goes to 3, but I think TSM is still going to win unless they have a Rift Rivals hangover from winning the whole thing. But they were probably with P1 and C9 celebrating the win. So
Not Mike Young. He can't drink in anywhere. So,
that's right.
yeah.
Under the table. But
Under the, yes.
Mike Young doesn't drink. He's a perfect human being.
That's right.
I think TSM will take it in 3. I think it'll be a close series, though. Usually I would say Mike Young might destroy Svenskeren, but what he showed in Rift Rivals, I mean, they were the 2 best junglers in the tournament.
Yeah.
So I think it's a close, hard-fought 3 series, but I think TSM takes it.
Something to watch is probably that Lee Sin contention pick. Both guys really love
Yeah.
that champ. So TSM probably ban out in Italy, and then it'll be a lot of Lee Sin and Elise going the rest of the way.
Nidalee bans are going
That's-
to become a mainstay now, which is great.
Yeah, even though it didn't work for EU whatsoever.
No, but then when he got it, he was disgusting on it. So
That's right. Before we get to your questions, don't forget to send them in. By the way, we'll be getting to them in about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how much Eric over here talks.
All right.
But first, we're going to do split decisions. Again,
Okay.
very, very punny split decisions.
Oh,
Yeah.
like summer
That's
split.
it. Yeah.
That's pretty clever, man.
To my own horn a little bit. But so, first one. You have to choose between one or the other. Give me a quick answer. Who's going to finish worse? Based on your previous answer, this might not go so well, but Echo Fox or FlyQuest?
Yeah, FlyQuest, for sure.
FlyQuest.
Just watching their early game is painful. They're basically losing in every lane. I don't know what Moon is.
Is that bad?
It's not great.
I got you.
I just feel bad for Moon sitting there. It might feel like a solo queue game where every lane is blaming the jungler and you're like, I can't go to all 3 lanes, man. So
Yes.
they have such poor early game. I don't know how they're going to be able to overcome it against some of these teams. Echo Fox actually has a pretty good early game. They just don't really know what to do in the mid or late game. They kind of fall apart. So I think if they can fix that, that's something that's more fixable than just being out-mechanicked in lanes, I think.
Echo Fox has really turned into the new Clown Fiesta team, if you will.
Yep.
They're just, sure, if they're leading, that's great, but they might not be leading 5 minutes later.
Yep.
It's just outstanding to watch.
You never know what you're going to get. You're going to get a game with 40 kills, and then the next game there'll be 6 kills at 40 minutes. It's very exciting, or it's not.
Yes, exactly. All right, so UOL, G2, Fnatic, which EU team falls apart? Takes a tumble down the standings.
I'm going to say none of them. I think
that's not a rule. You can't do that.
It's good we didn't go over the rules. I think they'll all be okay. UOL's probably not happy with, but satisfied with their performance. I think Fnatic will again take this as a bit of a wake-up call, get inspired to get back on track. And G2, they just seem kind of lackadaisical. Even some of the games they're losing, they were kind of like they didn't seem down. Whether that's a positive or a negative, I think they'll get back on track. They'll sneak into one of the lower seeds in the playoffs, and they'll be fine. I
agree with you on that. I don't know. I do think Fnatic is going to take a hit after having their one strategy completely exposed by North America. I mean, they was not good.
Maybe they have other ones. They just didn't want to show.
I don't believe you. I don't think
they're that next level. They're like, no, we got to save these for Worlds.
I mean, maybe it has just been we're going to keep playing it since it's working. Which is totally fine. I mean, if you're in Europe and you're playing the same strategy over and over, the saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it definitely wasn't broken. You could win doing the same thing every single time. So
now it's broken.
Now it's very broken. It was busted up pretty good.
I mean, Reckless is probably tired of playing Kennen. If I was him, if I had to play Kennen 2 games in a row, I'd be like, oh. And he plays it 15 games in a row. So he might be happy about that.
Maybe. That's why I played Corky.
Yeah, that was
I was bad.
No Corky.
All right, final one. I'm going to give you a list of 5 teams in North America.
Remember.
I know, it's a lot, but they're pretty easy to remember. And you're going to pick the 4 that make the semifinals in North America.
So I'm only cutting 1 team.
That's right.
Okay.
So you got CLG, Cloud9, Team SoloMid, Immortals, and Phoenix 1. Who is not going to make the semifinals of those 5?
Immortals.
Ooh.
For sure.
That hurts.
That's right. Against TSM and some of the top teams, they were looking good early on. The last couple weeks, I just don't think they can match up. I think Pobelter is severely outclassed by guys like Bjergsen and Jensen.
Yeah, he's the least consistent probably of those guys.
Yeah, and a guy like who he is barely in lane anyways. He's running around helping the other lanes, and I think just across the board, the other 4 teams are better. The resurgence of P1, there you go, got to reference them again.
Hey.
I think they'll be better than Immortals.
Yeah, I mean, Immortals is probably the easy pick. Part of me wants to say Cloud9, which is hard to say because they have performed pretty well in North America. But again, with just the issues they have going around in the top lane and then mid-game issues, it is concerning to me. And I know a lot of people are like, this Rift Rivals term doesn't mean too much.
Yeah.
But at the same time, a lot of that stuff can carry over. And if the communication's off, if the top lane is going to be a problem, then it's likely going to carry over for at least a couple weeks. And that could hurt your standings. And if they don't get it sorted out in time for playoffs, maybe they get upset by, you know, a Phoenix 1, a 3-6 series.
Yeah, they don't really have time to have a slump like that either. They're already 6-4, a couple games behind the top 3 teams. So yeah, if they have a couple series that they should win, that they fall behind, then yeah, they're not really going to be on the risk of missing playoffs. They might fall to a bottom 2 playoff seed though, but again, that doesn't really matter.
All right. It's time for your favorite segment of the show, which is viewer questions. Right. I know you get choked up every time
I'm feeling okay right now. I had a lot of water.
You want another sip? Or you
No, I'm good. I'm good. I just might pee during it. But
okay, very good.
Should be fun.
So if you got some questions, send them in, and we'll try to answer them again to the best of our abilities, which is questionable, but yes,
very adequate.
Very adequate. We'll do our best. So first question from Buddha47: Who is the best jungler in NA? Seeing Svenskeren starting a comeback. Well, first of all, it's Mike Young.
Yeah,
but in all seriousness,
it is Mike Young. But in all seriousness, I guess Svenskeren, that's a guy you could make a case for. But I mean, he's kind of still been inconsistent earlier in the weeks in the NA LCS. I don't know if you count Rift Rivals over to this split because most of the guys weren't in there. But I still feel like a guy like Lyra is probably the best just jungler position. I think it's probably a guy like Lyra. He's just hard carrying his team like Mike Young is now. But he's been doing it for a while longer.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm going to... Any points towards Lyra? I know he's kind of had a quiet split, and for me, he's had a couple bad games, but he was the MVP, the best jungler last split. Any points for Lyra as the best jungler still?
I said Lyra, Matt.
Very good. I'm reading the board.
Matt doesn't listen to the words that I say.
No, I have my opinion and you have yours, and that's it.
Yeah, he likes to just, ignore
Lyra's very good.
Yes.
Very good.
I would say Lyra's probably the best guy.
We will cut that from the VOD.
Glad we could agree.
Yeah.
What's the next one,
Yeah,
Matt?
very good. That's what I was looking at. Philip Paul has a few questions for us.
A few?
The first is he wants to know why we think EU did so badly against North America.
Well, Phil, I think
It's Philip.
Excuse me, Philip.
Yeah.
He goes by Phil.
Okay.
His friends call him that. I think maybe they got a little cocky. I mean, all the outside noise, as we mentioned, was any of these 3 EU teams could probably stomp all 3 of the NA teams. And obviously that wasn't the case, especially that they're at home basically for this. I think they just got a little cocky, and I don't think they were at all used to some of the picks and just the kind of overall meta that NA had going. Like you mentioned, they're kind of locked into the whole European meta. It's basically their own style of League of Legends. So when some outside competition comes in, I just don't think they were ready for it and didn't adapt to it quickly enough.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Another part, I think, is the junglers in North America really did have a big impact and took over a lot of these games and kind of outclassed the guys who we've been praising in EU for a lot of times. I know you love Xerxes, Broxa, and Trick. You don't really sleep on those guys, but they were outclassed like a lot.
Yeah, Broxa had probably the roughest tournament for Fnatic.
But I mean, when you look at the guys who they were facing, Svenskeren, you kind of expect him to perform some of these guys, but then Mike Young, who's a rookie, and Contracts, who was a rookie last split, just destroyed these guys.
Yeah, Contracts on a couple of those Kazakhs games was hard carrying Cloud9, and obviously the other 2 had fantastic tournaments, So junglers, they were outclassed. Probably mid lane too.
Probably a lot of spots when you
probably all the lanes.
Yeah, there you go. Which is interesting considering EU was the favorite going in.
Yeah.
Phil, you made me say it now. I hope
right.
he's not offended. If you're offended, let us know and we'll fix it for next time. He thinks Lemonation is Fly's biggest weakness. Constantly gets caught. Sometimes he forgets he exists because he has so little impact, which is pretty fair. It's a rough thing to say, but I agree. Probably his champ pool seems weak. Should go back to Zyra. That's what Phil thinks.
Yeah, I mean, Lemonation historically has been more of a mage-type support player. He's never really been known for, like,
Morgana,
Thresh
Zyra.
or these engage pick guys. So maybe he should do that, but then the double-edged sword is he's super squishy. So, yeah, when he's going to face check as a Zyra, which he tends to do more often than not, then he's getting one shot. Even quicker, I think he just gets over aggressive with some of the warding and just scouting out when he's alone. He's definitely a weakness on FlyQuest, but so's most of the team, I would say.
Yeah, they have some issues. I mean, they had a great week last time. Wild Turtle, the meta suits him better because he can play Tristana and just hop away when he
was
gets in a
great
bad
last
spot.
week.
Right. So maybe the new meta is better, where you just stick a guy like Lemon on Tom Kench and say, "Save me."
Yeah.
As Wild Turtle.
When Turtle flashes in, you flash in after.
It's pretty self-explanatory. Yeah. But I don't have too much faith. They're going to have to do something different for next split, if they come back next split with the whole franchising thing.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of the nostalgia thing with the 3 of the 5 original C9 members. But I think, yeah, if they want to really compete, they're going to have to make some changes for sure.
Yeah. Going back to Buddha47, he saw Yasuo in Korea the other day. Do you think that's ever going to move over to North America and EU? I know a lot of guys like Jensen have been saying that they're going to break it out. They haven't yet. It's a pretty risky pick. You think it'll make a showing one day?
It is a bit risky, but it's kind of like Kassadin, where you're totally down in lane, you can be getting dumpstered, and then you have one good team fight where you get 2 kills, and it's like, oh, now he's super fed, and he can dominate the game. I think maybe it can work if you're playing, like, there's not that many AP top laners going around right now.
Right.
So
just Rumble, basically.
Yeah, so you kind of have to run Rumble, because if you're running the Yasuo mid, then obviously you don't have much AP going on, unless you're Mike Young playing Nidalee.
That's right.
In the jungle.
Yeah, at least.
Or Reckless, little Corky bottom. But I would love to see Yasuo, because he is a solo queue hero and an amazing champion to watch play.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the problem with Yasuo is it kind of depends on your comp a lot, too.
Yeah, if you have like a Gragas or something.
The Gragas Lulu coming back in maybe with the knockups and whatnot. I know Malphite is not a big pick right now, but that was kind of a huge composition back in the day. So that's the only issue with Yasuo. If you can somehow draft a comp that revolves around those knockups and have an AP laner somewhere else or in the jungle, then you can run it. But otherwise, it's just very cliche. What is cliche? I don't know.
Cliche?
Niche? That's the one.
I prefer cliche.
Yes. If you like the word, let us know. That's a good one.
I don't even know how to spell that. But maybe throw Yasuo top, and then you have an Orianna or something made. That would be fun. Yeah,
I agree with you on that. Let's see. A lot of questions here.
Yeah.
Who do you think is the most underrated player in each role from Newbie Tuesdays?
Newbie Tuesdays. It's Wednesday.
That's a lot of roles. So we'll just go through them quick. In the top lane, who do you think is a little underrated?
Okay, you gotta ask the question again. I was
underrated player in each role.
Oh, underplayer.
Now you're ignoring me. That's
no, I was thinking of his name, Newbie Tuesdays. It's a great name. Top lane, who's underrated? I think my boy Zig. Gotta reference B1. I thought he would do well heading into Rift Rivals.
Right.
He performed really well. He's great on Renekton. Obviously, he played Kled before everyone else was picking it up. I think he might actually have a somewhat diverse champion pool, and he's pretty consistent for them. So I like my boy Zig. Yeah,
when you look at that team, he's not a guy you talk about too much.
No.
He really does fly under the radar. I do like that pick, especially because he was kind of the originator of the Kled pick, which you don't think of Zig as an innovator at all, but he was ahead of the time with that pick. So.
And he's got the freshest man bun in the NA LCS.
All right. Maybe we won't do all of them because there's a lot of questions here, but we'll do top lane and then maybe just underrated player as a whole. I know it's a lot. That maybe made it worse, but
maybe my boy Apollo. He's kind of been the instrumental, mediocre, run-of-the-mill AD for the last few seasons.
Yes.
Ever since he was on Team Impulse, basically, where he was just you're the guy in bottom lane that no one cares about. But this year, he's at the top in CS difference at 10. He's consistently outputting damage. He's just been really a solid rock for them in the bottom lane, which is surprising.
It is surprising. Yeah, I mean, I've been not making fun of him because that's harsh, but been trashing him for a while. I mean, and to be fair, he hasn't been performing well, but him with another underrated guy in Hakuho has really transformed what they've done down there. And I think a lot of it too is just Lyra in the jungle and them getting their comms in place. So both those guys down that NV bot lane.
Maybe he's not underrated because he was near the top of Freak's AD carry list. So I don't know if that counts.
Would you like to comment on that tier list? Anyways, let's.
It was interesting.
It was interesting. What are your thoughts on the Urgot rework and the new champ? Do you think it'll make a showing in the LCS? First, personally,
spooky.
It's very spooky. I was a big fan of the Crabgot skin beforehand because it was so awful and just had like a woman slung over his shoulder and shooting his one-handed spine. I played that skin all the time. It was great.
Yeah,
and now they ruined it by making it look cool.
Yeah. His new ultimate is so gross and scary.
Yeah. The pull in and execute?
Yeah.
Excuse me?
You can't say execute. That's too dramatic, Riot.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where he would fit in the competitive scene. I'd have to kind of see what the champion is like. I haven't really explored it or what it's like even in solo queue or wherever. So I'll have to see where it goes, but maybe it could fit. I would love to see Urgot in competitive. Just because it's Urgot.
I would love to see it too. I mean, it gets hovered all the time, the old one. But I mean, the new kit looks pretty cool. I don't think it fits anymore as a AD carry. It'd probably be a weird top lane bruiser champ, but even then, there's not really any escape mechanics, so it might be pretty easily gankable. But
get tanky.
His kit looks cool. You just walk around the guy and keep firing your cannons at.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Fiora going for their vitals, switching his legs. It's interesting.
Yeah, all right. Let's get to our final question because I know that you have some parking that you have to get back to. It's very important. We can't have you getting fined. You don't get paid enough for that. But
I'll just send it here.
Yeah. Do you think the franchising system and the sister teams getting implemented, will there be more freaking Mike freaking Youngs? That's what it says.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
Yes.
I think it will diversify the talent pool, and especially with all the teams required to have that academy team, I think that's definitely going to help flesh out the talent in the NA. The challenger scene, which has obviously been just abysmal for the past couple years with basically just a bunch of different imported players coming in. So I think having a specific academy team that can probably scrim against that LCS team consistently is really going to help develop the talent. And with that many more teams, they're going to need to find talent from NA because you can't have that many imports. Yeah,
the interesting thing with Mike Young was that he really did come out of nowhere. I don't even think he was on a challenger team. They just one day, I didn't even hear the news that he was going to start for P1 until the morning of. It's like Inori got shipped to Liquid. Meteos is
not playing.
Passed away or something. Yeah, I don't want to start that rumor. He's very much alive. I'm pretty sure. I think he's
just in jail.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. But he really did come out of nowhere. He wasn't scouted too much. It's just this young kid who kind of just qualified in age is able to play. So I think there will be a lot of these young kids who don't have to be of age to play in LCS kind of getting groomed for it.
Yeah.
And then hopefully there are some more Mike Youngs to groom this NA talent pool that's been mocked for years.
Yeah, and I think he played in like solo queue under a couple different account names that weren't even Mike Young. So
it's a shame, great name.
It is a great name. Glad he changed it for the LCS.
Yes.
But like, if people were trying to find him, you wouldn't even know. I feel like Mike Young on the Challenger leaderboard would be pretty recognizable.
Yeah, you would think so. Mike Young changed his name from Mike Young, which is his real name. So
think of how many accounts he could have with different Mike so-and-so, Mike Young, blah, blah, blah. It's too many.
Very long names.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyways, you have anything else that you want to say before we get out of here? Thank you all for your questions.
Yeah, those were great questions.
Yeah.
Shout outs to all you. I'm just excited for the second half of NA LCS. I think it's actually going to be pretty exciting near the top with those top three teams, top four really. I think it's going to, TSM and CLG look like the top two teams heading forward. And of course that rivalry, as fantastic as always, I don't see there not being a final with TSM in it. So I think the streak lives on.
Yeah, it's got to be TSM in there, and hopefully against Mike Young, because that would be amazing. I just want Phoenix 1 at Worlds. So, what's that, Wes? You want one more question? Oh, wow. Really throwing. Eric, you're going to get a ticket.
That's fine. I love tickets.
Which one do you want there, Mr. Producer Wes? Dylan. Yes, Dylan Costello. What do you guys think about Echo Fox, and what is wrong with them?
Well, there's a few things wrong with them. Again, as we kind of alluded to before, past 15 minutes, they don't really know what the heck to do. I guess so that'd be shot calling. They don't know how to play around objectives that well.
Yeah.
I think the laning phase for the most part they're fine.
I would agree with that.
But then outside of that, yeah, they don't seem to know what's going on. They don't know how to play around Dragon or Baron. They've had a lot of Baron throws. They've kind of been dubbed the new Dignitas, where when they get any amount of gold lead, well, let's go Baron.
Yeah.
We got a lead. We should be fine. And then they lose the game. So
Yeah, I mean, you see it with the good teams with their Baron control is they always make sure they have that vision control first before they even attempt at doing that. I mean, you'll see Cloud9.
The lanes are pushed.
Right. You'll see Cloud9 play around Baron for 5 minutes before even making a shot at that objective. And that's just what you have to do. So for Echo Fox, it seems like their decision making may be a bit sporadic and in the moment, whereas it's not planned out where it is like with Cloud9, you know, they're going to try to get a lead, get that vision around Baron, take Baron, end the game. Echo Fox doesn't have that set plan, and it shows in their mid to late game, which can be disastrous at times.
Yeah, it's painful. If you're an Echo Fox fan, I'm sure you smashed a few keyboards during the mid game. But maybe they can fix that, sort that out, maybe reassign some of the shot calling just specifically for that mid to late game. Who knows? Maybe they'll figure it out. I believe. You believe?
Maybe squeak into the playoffs. I'm not so sure. I think they might kind of struggle against those top tier teams and just with that late game decision making. But again, thank you everyone for your questions and thanks for tuning in to 5v5 Live. Eric and I will be back a week from now at the very same time.
It'll be Wednesday.
2 p.m. EST. So thanks for tuning in and we'll see you next week.